enjoy the show, play on Perjangers.
So, I usually go with a soft intro and, start around now. But I heard about you from a friend of the podcast, Josh Shockley, who is he's got me so many guests on the Tales of the Hunted podcast. It's been ridiculous. The guy is amazing. He's probably
He's very nice. Yeah.
he's one of the very first ultimate Wallhangers in these recent podcasts. I mean, I've talked to Jetta Anthony, Jim Cantinelli, all Brandon Spicer, all the guys that
I
do
know
stuff
Jim.
with PLB. Jim is actually going to be at a SPO wrestling event with Frank and my buddy Alim Legit. They are having a wrestling event at Harrah's Casino in Chester, and I'm bringing along my comic book wrestling, fan friends, and they're going to sell their comic books at the event. And one of the things that we're working on the network is to throw more convention and / wrestling events, because comic books and wrestling are very tied to each other.
Oh yeah.
Because you have the antagonist, the protagonist. It's just like it's a great medium for entertainment for a lot of fans. And one of the things that I really appreciate are people like you who are putting your time and effort out there to provide entertainment for the indie pro wrestling scene. We've had, I could say multiple, because we've had Corey Castle on here. We've had Tony Yolanda, working on different people that I work with the AAW, even SPO wrestling and Valor Wrestling out in York. I'm working on getting a lot of different kind of wrestlers on here, because with Tales of the Hunted, we try to create a platform, or a soapbox, if you will, for indie content creators. And that's where this podcast really has a broad kind of definition of what indie is. Now, if we're just looking at indie content creation, wrestling falls right in there. You guys have been indie as long as the term has been in the popular lexicon. You guys have been going out there with just your talent and saying, no, I can put on a really great show.
Definitely. Last night I was on One Division Pro, which was one of the biggest promotions up in New York currently.
Awesome. That's really great. I mean, New York is a bit from me. New York's been a bit from me. Like with my production company with Perjangers and Wallhangers, we do live videography for wrestling events. And that's where I really got sucked into the wrestling world again. Last time I actually paid attention to wrestling, it was Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, that kind of attitude era. And I haven't paid attention to it up until now, because now I know so many people in the indie pro wrestling market that I want to go out and support them, and I want to help them. And that's one of just like comics. I have a whole bunch of comic book creators and even writers on this show, that the indie scene is something that I think a lot of people actually find more support than you would in other places, like indie wrestling, indie comics, indie, a lot of the stuff to where you really have to be a nerd or a geek. That's the stuff to where you find people giving you pointers, helping you with techniques. Have you found that in the wrestling world?
Yes and no. Like, the more that I look at like comic books, the more that I'm drawn to like the unhinged characters, the more like out there characters, even from Josh Shockley's area of work with PLB Comics.
Yeah.
Because I actually have not on me right now, but I have on me. I have the Fall comics, which for the longest time I'm like. I remember the first time I read one, it was like, shit, this is like, oh wait, am I allowed to curse or no?
Go ahead.
All right, good. So the first time I read one of his comics was like, holy shit, this is like Punisher, but if Punisher had like no guardrails and it was like ripped off like the old Max days.
Mm-hmm. He has the storytelling as well as art is very unique to his
Yeah.
PLB comics, but it's different and it is very stylistic and impressionistic just when you look at it from
Oh, yeah.
an art perspective. But his stories are intriguing. They make you want to find out what happens. And that's a lot like what you find with good indie wrestling because
Right.
you want to know, all right, I'm at this live event, but how does the story turn out? You know? And that's where being the videographer, I try to just record what I would find entertaining. I'm the first fan to be watching this event behind this camera. So I look at it from that perspective to where, how do you look at this? Because we'll get to your origins. There's always an origin story, but how do you view your journey through the indie market?
My journey is very much something that I would not recommend anyone to do, but
Fair
I
enough.
started out as a fan and then I found a school and then I trained there for like, I don't recommend this to anyone because I've done it and it is not a good time. I did like maybe 2 or 3 months there.
Mhm.
I wanted to go get more time elsewhere.
Yeah.
And then word got back to my trainer, well, to the head trainer, and he's like, no, you can't do that. You're blackballed. So
Okay.
for like a short span, I was without a school, without a trainer, without people that would actually take time to train me.
Right.
So I went and got, God bless him, man. Like I have very much a very great group of guys now around me
Mhm.
that very much watch whatever I do.
Yeah. That's big. That's huge, especially when you're on this market with saying, no, I have people that support me that'll come out and help me. And it helps you perform, I imagine.
Yeah. And one of the guys that keeps up with me and kind of checks in on me once in a while and checks how I'm doing, he's the owner of the SRG Universe Super Show card game.
Awesome.
And like it's one of the biggest card games like for independent pro wrestlers right now.
That's
It has
huge.
Smiley, it has myself, it has AR Fox, it has so many other big names that when they came onto the independent scene, they found the Super Show card game. They approached the founder, Steve Rex, and basically paid him to be in the game, which is what I also did. And then just last night, I ran into him again.
That's interesting. I
And
like that.
yeah,
I like that idea of a card, like having a card that your fans can actively go out and, well, I like this guy too. Well, he has a card. Now that's building out the idea of that. You're giving fans that tangible thing they can buy to connect with you.
and in the game on the website, my card has been like sold out for like every once in a while. You go back and check to see if it's sold, if it's still sold out. It's been sold out for I don't know how long now. It's
God,
been like sold out for a while.
that's a great problem to have, ain't it? You can try.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been sold out
Yeah.
though. I can't guarantee it'll be there, but you gotta go back frequently. Just keep an eye on
Yeah.
it. Like you have something you
remember,
like on Amazon and you want to get it on special. You're like, I'm just gonna keep checking back. I'll buy you on
it's
sale.
only like available now. Like whenever the Super Show goes out to do shows and
Mhm.
like has a game out for people to play, you can only get at the show, not on the website now.
Excellent. That's brilliant marketing right there in and of itself. Because when you look at that, it's getting your fans out there to see you at the shows that you're at to get this special merchandise. It's what pretty much everybody's doing these days because, hey,
Oh yeah.
if you buy this game on Xbox, you'll get this DLC pack for free. Pre-order now. You know, there's that people are
Yeah.
used to that tangible package deal hanging out in front of them that it only makes sense to bring it into the indie scene and offer the cards. I was talking to somebody the other day, and I remember going to school at Parside Elementary, and like there being trading cards for the police officers. So tying that into the indie scene, having cards available of your favorite pro wrestler. That's tying it into like baseball, basketball. It's tying it into that card community to where I can see this idea taking off of a lot more pro wrestlers wanting a card, wanting, because especially with 3D printing, if you get the right guy, you have an action figure, you have a card, you have t-shirts. It makes you so much more marketable when you go out to these wrestling events that if a lot of them take on to having tables and vendors, now you have an option of actually selling your wares, selling you as a brand, and then keep going forward. It's one of those things that I think a lot of indie wrestlers should take advantage of merchandise. Everybody, not just indie, everyone indie. If you haven't, start focusing on indie merchandise because that's where you're going to start seeing an immediate return for your long-term investment. You put out so much money to make this merch, and then you sell it for a price. You will see a lot more people like, oh, you got the bobblehead? Like, yeah, man, he had a select amount of bobbleheads over here. It was crazy. I couldn't believe he had a bobblehead. You get those special things that will give your fans that personalized idea of, oh, no, I'm getting a real good deal. I like this guy as a wrestler, and he has all this other different merch for me to have. Because then they can meet you at the shows. And that's another thing that's going to be a different level to what everyone else is doing. So that's a brilliant strategy just from looking at it. Like, no, maybe your fans do want you as a Snuggie. Who knows?
Maybe if I make it big further down
big.
the road, like eventually I'll branch off
in the winter months
into different merchandise. So
in the winter months,
I already have like
the
a T-shirt and
would definitely
already,
sell. I'm just saying, you make a Snuggie in December, people are like, you know what? He's my favorite wrestler, and now I got a Snuggie of him. It's great. I'm so warm.
Yeah, definitely be a good idea.
But you were mentioning your merchandise.
Maybe.
What merchandise do you have so far for fans out there?
I use one site because it's through one promotion that has like the design of my logo.
Mm-hmm.
It has the hoodie and the shirt, which I can forward you the link later.
Absolutely. I'll have it in the description.
All right.
So that way people can grab your merch. I mean, one of the big things I've seen at some shows and even conventions, Comic-Cons, is people selling masks. Have you thought about that?
I have actually done it once. I would want to do it again, but like they're fucking expensive.
Oh, I imagine. It's got to be
depending on who you go
it's
to.
a really great mask that you have on. I know you mentioned that you have 4. And I watched a couple of
I have actually 5. This is like one of
Oh, jeez.
Right now I just wore one of my 5 different sets.
Mm-hmm.
I have one I'm waiting to use because a buddy of mine who is a motion capture actor did motion capture for Shao Kahn in one of the Mortal Kombat games recently.
Oh, that's awesome.
So he's a very great guy. Stefan Scalabrino is his name. So
I'd love to have him on, man. I mean, mocap acting is that's a solid paying gig because you just start thinking of like how many different video games that are being worked out there, and mocap being a solid portion of what they use right now.
Oh yeah.
At least until they work out.
I remember from time to time whenever I would talk to him, like back in the day, I think maybe a couple months ago, he would be like, "Yeah, I can't really talk about this game that I'm on because it's all hush, hush,
NDAs out
like,
the ass, and
damn,
it's like, how many times did you sign your name today? Like at least 20. So I got a lot of stuff I can't talk about. But that mocap thing is really big, I mean, especially somebody taking advantage of that because, for a lot of acting, it's why they don't go for the gigs where their face is covered because you're covering the moneymaker. You're not being seen, right? So for a lot of acting, all right, no, but you're just, you're the mocap actor? Yeah, but you're based off, your likeness will be based off of that video game. You will be in that video game, which I think is pretty cool. Even if you're just a mocap actor for a separate character, you have that tie in into your little notch in your belt to be like, yeah, but I was Geralt mocap actor in the game. I'm like, oh shit, you have that tie.
Yeah.
So maybe, especially for wrestling games, maybe you want to, you get into like mocap. That would be a different. Oh my god! You can also play me
Actually,
as this
funny thing
character
that you
in that
mentioned
game.
that. Funny thing that you mentioned that. Actually, I am outside of the mask. Outside of wrestling and outside of this, I have my own video game studio, and right now there is still a video game based on a story that I've written down for the Hyena character.
That's awesome. Making your own video game. I mean, I just had on Richard Dury, who he was promoting the Heroic Awards for indie comic artists. Who they're looking at their nominees for 2025. So any indie comic artists who are watching this podcast, go over to the Facebook for the Heroic Awards. They have a link there. Submit your comic that was made this year in 2024, and it's an amazing award show for indie comic artists. And they're looking at their whole event that they have is planned out expertly to highlight everything indie. So one of the things that he came on there to talk about is Ares the Artist game of Vigilante Combat, to where he reached out to indie comic book artists and said, hey, I want to make this video game. Would you let me use your character? So even creating your own wrestling game centered around your wrestling character of Hyena, I can't tell you with the Unreal Engine that you can't make that amazing, because it could be whatever game you want. Do you have an idea? Do you want it to be like a wrestling game? Do you want it to be like an RPG, action, fighting game? Oh, okay. That's fair enough. That's fair enough. It's obviously a really interesting idea to have a wrestling character in a game. Even if you have one or multiple, you have your story in a way that people can experience. And these are wrestling fans.
But,
and like I said, wrestling and comics go hand in hand. But guess who is not far off? Video games. Video games, comics, and wrestling. It's like the perfect triforce of nerddom right there. Those are probably the nerdiest people you will be able to find on the internet. They all feel like they know something more than the other. At least in that aspect.
I remember, however, the story that we have is going to be very much... What I plan on doing with it is kind of doing what Marvel has done with the movies. Because I've been,
that's smart.
Playing, all the Marvel stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And, we could do this with this character and then have this character come in, this character come in, this and that and the third. So I've been, talking with other wrestlers, hey, how would you like to be a part of, the universe I'm making? They'll either say yeah or no.
Mm-hmm.
We're kind of adjust, kind of make different minor, design choices here and there, but it'll still be you, though.
Yeah, your fans can go to this game to find you, which is a brilliant idea.
Yeah. Yeah, and then then I say, hey, we're going to also do this event happens, which leads to this event and that event.
Yeah.
Fucking enjoy. Then this event happens and this event happens and all the characters come in to event, and this event happens to where they have to split guy.
You broke up a bit there.
Oh.
Internet connection is also why I
do
not go live, because I like to edit that stuff out and get your whole idea.
Yeah. All right. But we have, me and my, it's a 2-person studio that I run.
Some of the best ideas are started out of a two-man job. Especially a 2-man job like that. A lot of ideas are started off of just these 2 people who have a really good idea and they start collaborating. It's how Perjangers and Wallhangers came about. Myself and my partner, Christopher Bristow. You know, all you need is another person that you can freely bounce your ideas off of, because nobody but your business partner will actually entertain that. All right. Everybody else is going to look at it like you're crazy or just be a yes man. Your business partner will look at it from a different perspective that will actually give you the best information to put your best foot forward, if that makes sense. So having another person there to fuel your dream, because now you have two perspectives on the idea. And that will help. Well, why don't we do this? Hey, you know what? I was already thinking of this. We can, and when you start collaborating with a person, you start to have a better idea. You know, it's like when human beings started to learn how to smelt metals. We started getting a lot better stuff. We're still doing pretty good. We're still doing pretty good. But you mentioned to me also, outside of wrestling, you have also ventured into comics, as well as gaming. I mean, you're already hitting the nerdy trifecta.
Yeah. Kinda, yeah. But outside of the ring, like I've done stuff with Jim already. I've done your work for him, which you can see my mug outside of the mask
Right.
on the horror short they won an award for recently. The first episode
I saw
of
that. Yes. I'm brain farting on the name of his character though. Oh, god damn. There's so many guests. I love Jim though. Jim is a really great guy, and he has a great premise for
him. Is fucking fantastic.
Yeah, he is amazing. And just knowing that, like, being part of that is...
In case if he's watching this, I can't fucking say what he's going to be bringing me back for next, but I'm fucking excited. I can't wait.
He will be watching. I'll tell you that.
I know, like, oh, fuck, I can't fucking say what he's going to be bringing me back for next.
Yeah, if there's one person, Jim is definitely... I could tell... Yeah, he's going to be watching, just like Josh. They both send me out the likes when I send it out, so they're definitely going to be like watching this. But yeah, we don't want to violate any NDAs or not almost NDAs to where you just want to keep secret. Anything that you want to release out here that's breaking news, just like the video game, that's a great idea. And even just comic work, do you have your own idea for a comic that you would want to put out?
I've definitely like written down a story between me and another wrestler, where our characters have met in like ancient history, and then flash forwards to present day.
Okay.
Where his gear is now,
mm-hmm.
and where my character is at now.
Right.
And back in the past, in ancient Sparta, like I wrote the story to like be fucking bloody as all shit, bloody as all fuck. There was this one sentence I wrote out. I was like, Hyena gets German suplex down the pit, fucking lands, like all fucking battered. He's fucking like bruised, all fucking mangled up and shit. Tigers attack. Hyena like manages to fight them all off. There's like part of his skull fucking his head fucking hanging open. Like there's a spirit that's fucking hanging out of his skull and shit. And like he reforms by the power of the spirit. And he fucking uses the lion's jawbone to fucking climb back up the hole. He just and the spirit finishes him up just as he gets to the top. Like, round 2, motherfucker, let's go.
Yeah, you gotta have that boost up though. I mean, that's an interesting premise though. that's something that you could definitely write out to make it a very interesting story, tying in the two, because I've seen that, because I'm a huge anime watcher, huge anime fan. You've seen that kind of reincarnation or even just ancestral lines of like bad blood. Who was it? Infamously, the McCoys and
thanks to McCoys, yeah.
Yes. So you have that instant story right there, which goes back throughout time, which resonates as well. So, especially a well-written story like that, I think it could really put in a lot of, help, even just for backstory, and tying it to wrestling. These different ways of tying in amazing ideas that you can link everything that you do together. I've met wrestling podcasters. I've met, wrestlers who are in the comic artists and video games, and there's so many different kinds of passions that goes behind even the independent wrestler. I'm finding outside of wrestling that really kind of breeds it in with everything that we do here at Perjangers and Wallhangers.
Oh, yeah. Whole idea for like the universe was like comics, video games, and what we do inside the ring.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all of it kind of like this story happens in here, which applies with this story over here, which eventually leads from over here to over here to up in the ring. Which
So
I ultimately kind of got the idea from. You ever watch Lucha Underground?
yes, yes, I have seen that.
Like that's where I got the idea from. Was like, oh, this story happens over here, which leads to this story happening,
Mhm.
and then both stories, boom, down the ring.
Yeah. It makes sense. And especially with wrestling, you're already used to storytelling, and it makes sense to go out in those different facets to make a brand on yourself. And as an indie wrestler,
Right.
having a brand like Hyena and then having multiple different media sites that they can go and be a fan of you on is that's kind of the next level in the digital age that we're at.
Oh, yeah. Back in the '90s, like Mexico, they had the Mystico comics, and I don't know if they came out in the '90s, but I remember there was like Mystico comics and various like different luchador comics back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Which I want to get my hands on those and read them, even though they're in Spanish,
Yeah.
just to see what kind of level of storytelling there was back in the day. And then even with like WCW comics, the WWE comics, even I don't know what other comics were out back in the day of the
Yeah.
like outside of the ring stuff.
See what the quality was, and then add your own
Yeah.
spin on it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a brilliant idea. I think that anybody can really take advantage of, especially if you're in that indie market. You already thought of your character. It ties down into going to nerddom, but it goes down into D&D. You have your character. Your party.
Oh my
your
God, I
villains
fucking
and
love
stuff like
D&D.
that. Yeah, we're actually starting back up on this network. Coming in the future is a live in person. Everybody is there, but it's a D&D match, D&D game.
Oh no!
It's called Hit Points and Half Measures, and my character is the infamous
Oh, that'd be
Madman,
fucking fun.
a sorcerer of draconic bloodline, and a lot of hilarity and fun ensues. We have an amazing DM of Joe Clay, former Marvel inker Frank Percy, who's usually my co-host, MIA.
I remember.
R.I.P. Frank. He's
I
not really
have
dead.
a
We don't
D&D
know.
character. I have a D&D character too.
That's awesome. And just like when I was talking to Richard, part of the other thing was that he's bringing his comic to D&D and looking at different ways to make that happen. So that's another thing to where, once again, the nerddom sticks together. A lot of nerds I know who love wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
They also love video games. They love
Yeah.
comics. They love, a lot of them love D&D. It's tying everything together and making it all your brand. That is a really,
Oh,
really
yeah.
smart move that I think will help you in the future. Especially you start going to wrestling shows that have the availability for you to have a table. And then you have that table. You sell all these things that you've worked on, and now it's boosting you up, it's connecting your fans, and it's making everything a lot more marketable and make a lot more sense. It's giving you your own path forward that can help you even immediately. It's not something like, oh man, if I get to this,
Right.
then I'll be there. You're making it happen. And that draws attention to where and this is the best, one of the best things I thought of recently. But whenever you're a content creator in any facet, you are making something out of nothing. You're literally producing magic. Even in the smallest sense, you're producing magic happening. It wasn't there, and then you thought it, and then it happened. And it goes down
I
to
remember
indie,
right
it goes
now
down
with
to
one of
everything.
the guys I have in wrestling. One of the guys I'm going to be forming a stable with. like we have this idea of my character being the ultimate weapon that the one character is searching for. So my character is like, no, fuck you. I don't want to be a part of the fucking faction that you're forming. And it's like, you know what? Okay, fine. Let's sell this. Okay, let's sell this too then. So we already just had the battle royal recently, where me and him like chopped the absolute dog shit out of each other.
Right.
Hence why I'm a little bit sore today. So
Understandable. Because there is that physical toll that you have on your body from wrestling. You know, there's injuries.
Oh, yeah.
There's, bad decisions you thought would be a great idea at the time. It doesn't work out. Even just doing videography ringside, I can tell now, like, oh, that's not what you planned. No, you're just working that out. That's fine. Nobody notices. It's a lot like playing the wrong note as when you're playing an instrument. Like, keep going. Nobody noticed. Just keep going, because that's a big thing when you go, whether going at the music or anything like that, where you're putting yourself out there. If you make a mistake, you often stop and you're like, oh, no, that was wrong. But being a professional is being able to make it look like you meant to do that. And I find a lot of that in indie pro wrestling as well.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I remember one of the guys in the battle royal, like, there was so many good talent out there during the match. We even had one of the best wrestlers up in one of the many good talents coming out in New York right now is Caveman or Caveman or CMC lost the character of CMC last night during his title belt defense to Brian Black, who is in One Division Pro. And I know that One Division Pro just recently signed a deal with Roku, so I'm very much happy to be a part of the company that signed a deal with them.
Oh, absolutely. That's great. Building each other up. It comes back to that, building, and a lot of wrestlers looking out for people that they like, and they build up throughout their journey. There is that thing in the indie market of being able to, like, look at somebody who has a lot of talent. Like, you know what, you got there's a lot of prospect here. We just got to hone this and this, and you build each other up. A rising tide lifts all ships.
Oh yeah. So, the guy that I rode up with last night, Felipe Jr. Well, more like I took him up, but he's been definitely training with me for like the last years now. He's definitely made me more better in the ring. He's made me a lot better when it comes to promos. He's definitely said, "Hey, do a lot more, be more animated." So I've been like, kind of like not monkey see, monkey do, but like, do this, do that, and do that.
Yeah. It comes down to showmanship, though, when you're in the ring, and having that other person say, hey, you can do this. They're in the creative world, that there is a lot of that, and we all feed off each other. That's why you find those people who are on the right frequency as you are, and you're like, oh, okay, we can do work here. You're helping me here. I'm helping you there, because you didn't even think of that, but I didn't even think of this that you were saying. There's a lot of cross collaboration that happens. When I guess you have to have lawyers involved, it doesn't happen so easily. Like Marvel.
No.
Marvel's a perfect example of that.
Marvel, but it's like, God damn it. Why can't we fucking get the good shit? It's like,
you look at the comics, and then you look at what they do, and they're like, yeah, but we can make this happen. You're like, I guess, but Infinity Gauntlet was so much better than Infinity War when you look at the comics that they drew from.
Oh yeah.
Batman Long Halloween. Classic comic.
I remember I watched the anime.
That one wasn't bad.
The film of that. I did not get to read. I didn't get to read the comic book of that one, but I remember it was very good. I think it was Return of the Dark Knight. I think it was Return of the Dark Knight first, then parts 1, 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was really good. There have been really good adaptations. One thing that I almost forgot about, I saw on Facebook, but it was Hulk Hogan's animated cartoon. Do you remember that?
When did that come out?
It came out in like the 80s. So 80s into 90s. 90s it would have been in the like early
Probably
morning
not.
showings, but I remember it. I saw it on a Facebook page I follow. I think it was Memory Lane Theater. But it was so good because I remember that Hulk Hogan animated cartoon. It was a cartoon back in the 80s, and it had like Hulk Hogan, a bunch of wrestlers that were in like crazy situations. And I remember that. And I'm like, man, wouldn't that be great if in this indie scene, as we're talking here, I'm thinking that would be really great if we can get an animated if we can get a cartoon with all these indie wrestlers and match that together. I think that would be a brilliant idea.
And
Obviously, animation costs
and both
a
Jim on
lot
that.
of money. So, maybe tie in a couple leagues to this and make a spectacle of it. I don't know. But especially with Netflix out there, people would definitely love wrestling, like a pro wrestling anime or cartoon, I think there's some legs
WWE,
there.
I think, signed a deal with Netflix just recently.
They did for their, I think, live action stuff. But if they're smart, they'll be like,
Yes.
hey, guess what? We got animators. And that's right along the idea because why not?
Yeah.
You can.
I don't see why they don't do both their like live action and then have an animated side.
Yeah. I mean, it only makes sense when you're looking at it.
Yeah, with Marvel have right now.
Exactly, because they do the what ifs,
like
and
how
the
Marvel
cartoon
each
stuff.
one.
Yeah, and then they have their live action stuff. Having the two, that's a definite option for any of the bigs right now. To where why not have something that you put out even on like a separate channel that you post through social media in conjunction with that, and have it animated.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's animators out there that would love to do it.
Oh, definitely. I remember when they had the WWE network, they had like the live action programming and then the animated programming. I think they definitely dropped the ball with that in a way.
Yeah. Because
they definitely like kind of fucked up on it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, because there's a lot that came out with
definitely had the crowd for it. They had the platform for it.
Yeah.
But they fucked up with it.
Yeah, there's a bit of hindsight being 2020 there.
They pushed it for a couple weeks and then they did not.
Yeah. I mean, there is a bit of hindsight there, especially when you look at any of the especially like the great animations or cartoons that we've had in the past, and especially just anime that were great, only got one season. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't really make it through the fryer, even if it's a good idea.
No.
So having the determination,
animation,
there's legs there. I think there's definitely legs there, even in the indie market. If you can get somebody that's willing to do a 3D action figure of you, on a printer, you could definitely find somebody who's willing to do animation, even a short animation that you could have as like a promo for where you're going. Like, oh, I'm versing this guy, and then this is the promo. I know I'm going to be at this event. Here's the animation, and then you keep going from there. Now that's a fun animated promo that'll tie in with families, kids, everything, the entire market you're trying to tie to, and get that going forward. So I don't know, just a random idea that you can actually tie that animation into a working idea. Because maybe WWE would be interested in that.
Definitely.
Like, hey, man, I have a team of animators that would love to work with you and Netflix. And they're like, well, we looked at you guys, and we want to do that already. Like, well, let's make it.
I remember, who was it? Like, Triple H one day said that he watches, like, almost everything wrestling.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, especially
I heard them,
when you're looking at
oh,
talent.
shit. Actually, he actually does take the time. Like, back then when Vince was running it, I thought like he just watched WWE like talent in house and no one else.
Yeah.
When they brought Shinsuke over, I'm like, hold on, this fucking when.
Yeah.
This fucking when does WWE actually look outside of their bubble and be like, oh, there's more outside of this?
Hang on, there's a whole bunch of people outside. Anybody look out the window?
Yeah.
No, we weren't allowed to look out the window. That was against the rules. So, I mean, there is
Back in
that
the
kind
Vin-
of when you
back
have
in the
that
Ving
changing of
era,
the guard,
yeah.
you'll have that kind of forward progress, I'll call it.
Yeah, but look at WCW. They might have went under, but they brought in like talent from Mexico, talent from like all over the world.
Mm-hmm. And now,
Same.
I know that one of the places they pull in from Puerto Rico is the WWC. You know, they look at external sources for their talent now.
Yes.
And that's nice. It's good for indie wrestling, but that's where you should have these plans for your character like you do with comic, video game, merchandise. My character, here you go.
Right.
You know, it adds to the value of your character that I think that is a brilliant strategy for you to have in the indie market. It makes sense, especially for people to follow you to the events that you go to.
Like I even have like set lore, set like here's the deity that he follows. Here's like who made it. Basically made his race. Who made like everything down to like almost the small minutia. Even how I look, like body type wise.
Yeah.
Like okay, he's at this stage, so I need to look like this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he's coming back from being a bad guy. He needs to look like this now.
Right.
He's going from a bad guy to a good guy. He needs to look like this. So I need to look like this.
That's smart. That's really smart. And then when you go to the video game, then that's skins that you add as DLC. We would have called that a complete game back in the day, but now DLC.
Yeah. I very much treat my character very much like a role. Like, okay, I have to get to this way. I have to gain X pounds.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going from this side of the spectrum of being a good guy to being a bad guy. Okay, I need to either drop weight to look like either a animal that has not fed in fucking months or years.
Yeah.
To something to a creature that eats frequently,
Mm-hmm.
that has muscle.
Yeah.
That looks like he could rip a motherfucker in half by just staring at them.
Right. It adds a level.
So right now, yeah. So right now I'm like in like the middle, like I'm not bad, but I'm not good. I'm not like within like I'm rebelling against my god, but I'm like
kind of
kinda
that
slowly
gray Jedi.
easing back to being yeah.
That's fair enough.
So like very much right now I'm within that phase of like my character. Like
Mm-hmm.
right now I'm still like now as because today I already knew I had the interview, I'm like, okay, I need to get this done the front half of the day, and then I have this right now. I can get this done on the back half of the day.
That makes sense. I mean, you
And
got to
tomorrow, 'cause
fit
I have-
everything in.
Yeah. It's very like I'm a very fucking structured person. Like I know I have this much time. Like I have X amount of time to like get this shit done this half of the day. And then once I get home, or if I'm working, okay, I need to get this done. Like X amount of hours, and then once I get home, I have X amount of time left. That gives me time to work out, time to eat, time to shower, and then time to do like plan out the next day.
Keep it on a routine, even when the day-to-day changes.
Yeah.
That's great. What's the next wrestling event that fans can check you at?
I'll more than likely be hanging out. Hopefully, hoping if the promoter gets back to my one buddy because me and him travel in pairs. I might be hanging out to Ohio. If not, maybe I might be on my next show either in November. Yeah, that's when One Division Pro plans on doing their next show because like they very much like individually message people and say, "Hey, are you available for this date?" And like for example, for yesterday, they messaged me. I would say almost the day before I went on vacation. They're like, "Hey, are you busy? Day, are you available for to do the battle royal?" I'm like, "Fuck yeah, man! I'll fucking leave vacation and fucking drive straight up from fucking Stone Harbor. I'll do
Mm-hmm.
this, then I'll fucking drive home."
Well, that's great. I mean,
But
you will travel a bit in the indie scene. So, I mean,
oh fuck, oh
having
yeah,
to go all the way out to
oh fuck yeah.
Ohio and travel as much as you do, it's definitely something that I think every indie wrestler does, connect with because you got, especially indie. I mean, you look at stand-up comedy or anything like that. You have to travel to the gig, and you may be taking
Oh
a
yeah.
loss,
Who do
but
you
you're
follow
getting
from comedy?
exposure. Stand-up comedy. I have a very eclectic taste. I've been a stand-up comedy fan since I was like back in like middle school and high school and stuff, and probably even elementary. Like just Comedy Central was on my TV all the time back in the day. So I mean, looking at greats
Oh yeah.
like George Carlin, Robin Williams, Jim Carrey, even I remember
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I remember Tim Allen as a stand-up comedian, seeing some of his stuff. You look at the recent stuff like Tom Segura, Burt Kreischer, Shane Gillis, Ari
I love
Shaffir,
fucking Bert. I love fucking Bert.
the
What?
Machine.
I love his fucking. I love that fucking story. I
Oh man.
remember one of the jobs I was on for work. Like we were talking about uh, different comedians. We were talking about Bert Kreischer, and I'm like, "Oh, the fucking Russian guy, yeah." But one of
Not
the guys
quite
that
Russian,
I
but
fucking,
yeah.
uh, the one guy that I fucking like to listen to on like long to like gigs or shows is one comedian that I got to meet through a book signing that he put out a book for recently.
Oh, that's awesome.
Was who was fuck? I just listened to him this past Saturday going up. Uh, the fat Cuban guy from Spider-Man 2.
Oh, Joey Diaz.
Yes, Joey Diaz.
Uncle Joey. Coco. Oh, we
Fucking,
love Coco around here.
fucking
Come
great
on
guy.
now.
Fucking great guy. I love
Listen
that
here,
guy.
cocksucker. Oh, we fucking love Uncle Joey. Oh, yeah. The Perjangers house
he has a
is
podcast
one
out
that
now.
supports Uncle Joey Diaz.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I remember I got to meet him. Like,
Oh, that's great.
I got to meet him outside of the Met. I remember, like, of course, I'm fucking white, so no surprise there.
Mhm.
So I remember I walk up during the book signing at Barnes and Noble over in Clifton. That me and my buddy went out to. So I go up first. My buddy's behind me. I'm like, "Hey, I'm so and so. We were listening to you on the way up from Pennsylvania." He's like, "What part of Pennsylvania?" I'm like, "Close by Philly." He's like, "I was just over there just a few hours before this. Why didn't you come over and hang out?" I'm like, in the back of my mind, I'm like, "Motherfucker, I didn't know you were out in Philly just then. If you were and you would have fucking told me, then I would have been like, yo, let's fucking go hang out with fucking Uncle Joey and fucking
Yeah.
get high." And she didn't do whatever the fuck with fucking Uncle Joey. But I remember I like told him like, "Hey, I'm a pro wrestler, this and that." One of my buddies who was also a pro wrestler, tall 7 foot Cuban. Yeah, fun story behind that. So I got to ref one of his matches. So I'm 6 foot. My one buddy is 7 foot. My other buddy is 7 foot. I'm like, shit.
I'm a
It's gonna
hobbit
be a fun
compared to
match.
you guys. I am a fucking hobbit. I'm like 5'5", you know. I'm at like nothing height. Like you're talking like 6, 7 foot, 7 foot. Yeah, you're looking at 5'5" right here, man. You guys are all giants. I can reach to the top of the top shelf at the grocery store if I try. You know, I can do it. Shorter people
I
ask
remember,
me for help, but they're going to people like you first, obviously.
for I remember I said, "Yeah, I'm a pro wrestler." He's like, "You're one crazy motherfucker." Then, like, he signed my book. I have, I had to, I already had one book. I didn't realize I had to have a receipt for it to get signed. So
Mm.
I had to buy a second book. He fucking signs both. He's like, who? One book he writes. In one book he writes, "Who loves you, Uncle Joey?" And the other one's like, "Love you, cocksucker." I'm like,
Yeah, by the
like,
second book, you get the
like literally
cocksucker.
those two
Love
books
you,
right now,
cocksucker.
fucking. Like literally those two books that live right now, rent free on my fucking bedside table.
I would have them out both very proudly. Like, why do you have the same book? Well, let me tell you. Look at the signing.
And then,
That's great.
then my buddy, who was right behind me, who also had to do the same thing, he like goes up. He's like, "Hey, I'm so and so. I also wrestle." My buddy, who was just behind me, also wrestles. He's like, keep knocking those motherfuckers down. Like, motherfucker, what the fuck? He told you something else. God damn it.
That's great.
While we're waiting in line, like, we were on the one side of the store. Joey's on the far side of the store, like over by the graphic novels for like the comics. Are my one fucking weakness.
Mm-hmm. I get it.
So I get over there. I'm like starting to check out the comics. I'm like,
Well, what do you got?
God damn it! God damn it! God damn it! Focus! 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 Joey's right there.
We're here for Joey, but what is that comic? Hang on, what is that one? Oh, I don't have that one.
I remember.
Yeah, I know. I get distracted all the time too, walking around comics. It's very, very dangerous because I will instantly be poor.
Me and you both, but it was fun because we were just a few feet away from him. We hear him say to one female fan that came to get our book signed, "Sup, bitch?" I'm like, "Yo, that's it." The back of my mind's like, I'm like already fucking freaking the fuck out and fanboying out. And it's like, holy shit, he just fucking did it.
That's great. I mean, especially getting to meet somebody that you're a fan of like that with, Uncle Joey. That's a huge bucket of win right there.
Oh yeah.
But we know where fans can find you.
I actually have a picture of him, me and him, on my Instagram. It's probably buried in my Facebook somewhere.
Yeah.
More than likely.
Yeah, it tends to build up over time for a while, especially with the social media. But I mean, it's one of those things that you have as a nice feather in your hat that you got to meet, especially somebody like Joey. When you're a fan of him, he lets you know he appreciates it. So that's one of the best things about him. A lot like all the comedians that I mentioned, they let you know they appreciate it, and that's one thing that wrestlers do. Stand-up comedy does. All the greats, you will find that humility. That you realize that it's all nothing without the fans, without the people who are looking and supporting you from behind to push you to where you're going. It's all about that. So having at least that thought on, square on your shoulders is enough to push you forward in the future.
Oh yeah. Even when it comes to like fans, I already know like on my friends list on Facebook, there's like the Ego, Flamita, and Vito from AAA, CMLL. There's other like high profile wrestlers from like Mexico that like follow me. I'm like, shit. It's like, this is starting to get weird. People that are actually in higher fucking positions than me in other promotions are fucking watching my shit. This is
It's always
fucking
a wild
weird,
feeling.
not gonna lie.
That's a wild feeling to have.
Yeah, it's wild.
That. But
it's very.
Fans will know where to find you. I think that this is just the first of many podcasts, the first of many times that people will be able to see you on the Perjangers Wallhangers network as well as in our area. Because, like I told you, I'm definitely putting your name out there. So people know where to find you, and so we can all collab together and make all this happen. Because I think you have a lot of really great ideas that'll push a lot of indie pro wrestlers forward, especially with the game, the comic. There's a lot of stuff that you're doing to tie into your brothers in the indie pro wrestling scene that I think a lot of fans will find very attracting to follow you to your events, especially since you're everywhere.
Oh yeah, I've been to uh, besides of course homegrown Pennsylvania. Uh, besides being here, New York, New Jersey. I'd love to go down to Delaware and fucking wrestle down there and fucking surprise Jim like,
Yeah.
hey, what's up, buddy?
Yeah. Well, guess what? I'm right over here. There's definitely a lot of pathways for you forward, and I think our fans are going to want to hang on to every moment of your career going forward, because I think you're going to be doing a lot of things that'll bring a lot of attention to you that not a lot of other people are doing.
Yeah.
And you'll see that if you just keep going your path and keep steering forward. And a lot of fans will see the effort that you put into your every performance, even just after this podcast. So I loved having you on. I'm going to have you on again. And I want all the fans to be able to find you on social media. What is the social media tag that they can find you at?
The _Hyena PW. I also have a PSN that I kind of use here and there, but I've been busy with life, so
Yeah.
if you manage to catch me on there, it is more. I don't have my phone with me, so I won't be able to look at it, but I'll probably send the tag as well. But
yeah, man,
I definitely try to make fans, make friends, and kind of just let people know that, like, even though yes, I'm a wrestler, I can still make time for you. Like,
yeah,
the one thing that one of my that my mother gave to me is make time for people,
yes,
regardless of who they are.
yes. That's a very good
And
lesson.
then another thing that my sister said to me is, if you have a pulse, you have a purpose.
Yeah, that's a good lesson as well. I mean, a lot of really good lessons
Oh, yeah.
that I think people can really pull from, because those are obviously things that you drive your passion and energy from. Or we all have those kind of word tracks that we talk to ourselves and get us back into our right state of mind. So it's something that helps even the fans watching this realize, like, hey, everybody has those moments of hyping themselves up, getting themselves back in the moment, and that's the thing that we are going to be doing. We're going to be doing a lot of work over here at PJ and WH. So we want fans to keep their eyes out. Go to pjandwh.com, where you can find all of our polished and luggy and nutty and Perjangers and Wallhangers content. We have a special coming up, which is Lug Nuts Hits the Road from Parkside to Biloxi, Mississippi. And we are actively trying to, search that out there. Anybody wants to be sponsors and stuff to help make this special happen, we want to make sure to have everyone involved in that, as well as all the great stuff. Just keep an ey on our social medias. You're definitely going to be seeing the Hyena again. And this is just the first of many amazing podcasts, my friend. So I like to end off this podcast the same goddamn way every single time, is that we love you, we miss you, and we want to see you next time. Until then, game on, Wallhangers! Bye-bye!
Bye.